What up, Bugles? I want to welcome you to this video. In this episode of Unspoken Origin, we'll leave the world of superheroes and visit the world of Disney's Duck. Welcome to Uncle Scrooge, the story of self-made Duck. But before I start, please don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything and it means world to us. And also check out TikTok and Instagram. Okay, you might ask why I want to talk about Uncle Scrooge now. Thing is, this month will be released his historical first Marvel Comics adventure, Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime, and it will be written by one and only Jason Aaron, who is well known for his sharp, cynical, and often bloody and cruel stories. So I'm very curious how his take on this character will be. I didn't expect any bloodbath, but I'm sure it will be pretty unique read. Can't wait for it, and I am not alone because pre-orders for this issue are super high. But now let's take a look at the history of this rich duck. Yes, Uncle Scrooge, aka Scrooge McDuck, aka the richest duck in the world. He, his nephew Donald Duck, and grandnephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie are household names of Disney. Alongside with Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck, Pluto, and Goofy, live in a shared universe, and all of us know their stories in many forms, from comic book to animated series and movies to video games. Even my first encounter with the world of comic books was through the magazine Mickey Mouse, and I think this is the case for many of us. Scrooge McDuck made his first named appearance in the story Christmas on Bear Mountain. It was published in Dell's 4-Color Comics issue 178 on October 1947, and written and drawn was by artist Carl Barks. By the way, the story will be reprinted in earlier mentioned Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime issue number 1. His appearance may have been based on a similar looking Scottish thrifty saver character from the 43 propaganda short The Spirit of 43. In Christmas on Bear Mountain, Scrooge was a bearded, bespectacled, reasonably wealthy old duck, visibly leaning on his cane and living in isolation in a huge mansion. As character himself said, "Everybody hates me, and I hate everybody." Barks later reflected on the portrayal, saying Scrooge in Christmas on Bear Mountain was only his first idea of a rich old uncle. He had made him too old and too weak. He discovered later on that and had made him look more active. He even said, "I couldn't make an old guy like that do the things I wanted him to do." Barks would later claim that he originally only intended to use Scrooge as a one-shot character, but then decided Scrooge and his fortune could prove more useful motivation for further stories. Barks continued to experiment with Scrooge's appearance and personality over the next several years. In this time, he started revealing some information about Scrooge's past. For example, he created character as Fula Zula, an old African sorcerer and chief of the Voodoo tribe who cursed Scrooge, seeking revenge for the destruction of his village and the taking of his tribe lands by Scrooge decades earlier. Or Bombi the Zombie, the would-be assassin sent from Fula Zula to enact the sorcerer's curse and revenge. These characters are now considered as racist and offensive, so Disney doesn't use them anymore and kind of banned them. But they are part of characters' history, so I think I should mention them. Interesting is that some scenes of the story were intended as a parody of Bela Lugosi's White Zombie. The story is the first to not only focus on Scrooge's past but also touch on the darkest aspect of his personality. I hope Aaron in his new series explore these aspects as well. Very important story was Trial of the Unicorn, in which we first time see Scrooge's private zoo and private airplane. These was fundamentals for establishing Uncle Scrooge as an experienced aviator and adventurer. Over the years, Scrooge became a really popular character, and it was only a matter of time when focus on the duck stories changed from Donald to Scrooge. This time comes in 1950's story, The Magical Hourglass. Donald first mentioned in the story that his uncle practically owns Duckburg, a statement that Scrooge rival John D. Rackerduck would later dispute. Scrooge first hints that he was not born into wealth, as he remembers buying the hourglass in Morocco when he was a member of a ship's crew as a cabin boy. It's also the first story in which Scrooge mentors reading and speaking other languages beside his native English. During the story, he reads and speaks Arabic. Also, in the magical hourglass, Scrooge is shown in a more positive light than in the previous stories, but his more villainous side is still evident. He is seen attempting to require a magical hourglass that he gave to Donald before finding out that it acted as a protective charm for him. Scrooge starts losing $1 billion each minute and comments that he will go bankrupt within 600 years. This line is a parody of Orson Welles' line in Citizen Kane.
You know, Mr. Thatcher, at the rate of $1 million a year, I'll have to close this place in 60 years.
So, in attempt to convince his nephew to return it, he slips back to some shady tactics. In next years, with Scrooge as the main character, stories introduced to readers legendary characters as villainous Beagle Boys, or legendary building Scrooge's Money Bin, where Scrooge McDuck stores the portion of his money, and of course, swims in them. Fun fact, when I was a little kid, I had a painted picture of Scrooge as he swims in money on my wall, in my room. My dad painted for me, and on other wall was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that is a story for another time. Let's get back to the money bin. Except of money, it also contains various valuable artifacts like the Golden Fleece, the Crown of Genghis Khan, the Crown of the Mayas, the Candy Strip Ruby, and the Goose Egg Nugget. Original location of the money bin was on the top of Kilmotor Hill, which in turn lies atop a fault line which would prove catastrophic in the event of an earthquake. And this earthquake occurred in the story Land Beneath the Ground. In DuckTales 2017's TV show, Moneybane gets total redesign. Here it is depicted as a large tower suited on an island in the waters near Duckburg, connected to the city via a bridge and visible directly from Scrooge's bedroom window. DuckTales episode Liquid Assets established that Moneybane contains 607 trillion, 386 zillion, 947 trillion, $522 billion, and 36 cents. After Bark's retirement, the character continued on the other artists. But really major development was the arrival of a writer and artist, Dan Rosa, in 1986 with the story The Son of the Sun. It was released by Gladstone Publishing and nominated for a Harvey Award, one of the comics industry higher honor. Rosa has said in an interview that he considered Scrooge to be his favorite Disney character. Unlike most other Disney writers, Dan Rosa considered Scrooge as a historical character whose Disney adventures has occurred in the 50s and 60s and ended in his undeceptive death in 1967 when Barks retired. He considered only Barks' story as a canonical and fleshed out a timeline and family tree based on Barks' stories. Eventually, he wrote and drew The Life and Time of Scrooge McDuck, a full history in 12 chapters which received an Eisner Award in 1995. Later editions included additional chapters. Under Rosa, Scrooge became more ethical. While he never cheats, he ruthlessly exploits any loopholes, he owes his fortune to his hard work, and his money bin is full of souvenirs since every coin reminds him of a specific adventure. In an interview from 1992, Dan Rosa says that in the beginning Scrooge owed his existence to his nephew Donald, but that has changed and today it's Donald that owes his existence to Scrooge. So you might say these two comes full circle. Funny thing, especially for us Europeans, many of the European comics based on the Disney universe have created their own version of Scrooge McDuck, usually involving him in the slapstick adventures. This is particularly true of the Italian comics, which was very popular from 1960s to 1980s in most parts of Western continental Europe. In these, Scrooge is mainly an anti-hero, dragging his long-suffering nephews into the treasure hunts and shady businesses deals. Donald is a reluctant participant in these travels, only agreeing to go along when his uncle reminds him of the debts and background Donald owes him, threatening him, or offers a share of the loot. When he promises Donald a share of the treasure, Scrooge will add a little loophole in the terms which may seem obscure at first, but which he brings up at the end of the adventure to deny Donald his share, keeping the whole for himself, after Donald risks his life. And this is actually how I remember good old Uncle Scrooge. So this is a history of self-made duck, Uncle Scrooge. I'm really looking forward to his new Marvel Comics series, and you can find many comic books from DuckTales and Disney in our eShop, comicsbugle.com. Your friendly neighborhood comic book shop in Europe. Accept the great catalog of collected, deluxe and absolute editions, epic collections and omnibuses. We guarantee you eco-friendly Hulkproof packaging, free shipping in whole EU, and option to pre-order your comic book now and pay for it later. You can also split full price to 4 separate payments because we know how expensive these books can be. So check it out, comicsbugle.com. You can find our links below this video. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out any further videos. In our comment section, let us know what other comic books and topics would you like to see in our videos. And see ya, Bugles!